The wedding hall went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Beauty Hayes stood at the altar in her white wedding dress, her dark skin glowing under the lights. The dress hugged her full figure, every curve on display. Her natural hair was styled in beautiful braids with white flowers woven through them. She looked like a queen, but the man standing across from her, her fiancé David, looked at her like she was his worst nightmare. "I can't do this," David said loudly. His voice echoed through the hall. "I'm sorry, but look at her. I thought she would lose the weight before today. I can't marry someone who looks like that." Gasps filled the room. Beauty felt her heart shatter into a million pieces. Her hands started shaking. The bouquet of white roses trembled in her grip. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of all these people. Her mind screamed at her to run, to disappear, to wake up from this nightmare. Then a voice cut through the shocked whispers. Deep, commanding, with a slight accent that made every word sound important. "I will." Every head in the wedding hall turned. A man stood at the back of the hall. He wore an all-black suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. His Korean features were sharp and handsome. High cheekbones, strong jaw, dark eyes that seemed to see everything. His black hair was styled perfectly. He walked down the aisle like he owned the place, like he owned the whole world. Beauty recognized him immediately. Her breath caught in her throat. Min-Jun Park, the most dangerous man in Seoul, the head of the Park crime family, a man whose name made people whisper and look over their shoulders. "I will marry her," Min-Jun repeated. His eyes locked on Beauty's face. "Right here, right now. If she'll have me, kindly tell me in the comments what time is it where you are right now. And if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's see where my amazing viewers are watching from." 3 months earlier, Beauty Hayes was living a completely different life. She worked at Elite Events Seoul, a high-end event planning company. At 26 years old, she'd moved to Seoul 2 years ago for a fresh start. Learning Korean had been hard, but she'd done it. Making a life in a country where she stood out everywhere she went had been harder, but she'd survived. She was good at her job. Actually, she was great at it. She planned perfect events, remembered every detail, and solved every problem. But her boss, Mrs. Kim, barely noticed her work. And when things went well, Mrs. Kim took all the credit. Beauty had learned to accept it. Being a plus-size black woman in Seoul meant always working twice as hard for half the recognition. "Beauty, I need you to handle the park consultation," Mrs. Kim said one afternoon, not even looking up from her computer. 3 o'clock appointment. Very important client. Very private. Don't mess this up. Beauty wanted to say she never messed anything up, but she just nodded. "Of course. I'll prepare everything." The park file was strange. It had barely any information. Just corporate event, unlimited budget, complete discretion required. Beauty prepared their best consultation room anyway. Fresh flowers, perfect lighting, everything arranged just right. At exactly 3 o'clock, the door opened. The man who walked in made Beauty's heart skip a beat. He was absolutely gorgeous. Mid-30s, Korean, with features that belonged in a magazine. His black suit fit him perfectly. 3 men in similar suits walked in behind him, clearly security. But it was his eyes that caught Beauty's attention. Dark and intense, they seemed to notice everything about her in one look. "Mr. Park," Beauty said professionally, extending her hand. "I'm Beauty Hayes. I'll be coordinating your event today." His hand wrapped around hers. Warm, strong. He held on just a second longer than necessary. "Call me Min-Jun," he said. His English was perfect, with just a slight accent that made her skin tingle. The formal name was just for the booking. Something about his presence screamed danger. Beauty had good instincts about people. This man was powerful, probably dangerous, definitely not someone who planned normal corporate events. But her bills didn't care about her instincts. "Please have a seat," she said, gesturing to the consultation room. "Can I get you anything? Coffee? Tea? Water?" "Water is fine." Once they were alone in the room, Min-Jun's entire posture changed. He relaxed slightly, leaning back in his chair. "You're wondering why someone like me needs an event planner," he said. Beauty kept her face neutral. "I'm here to provide whatever service you need. Your reasons are your business." A small smile crossed his face. "Diplomatic. I like that." He studied her for a moment. "I need to plan a wedding, but not a real one." Beauty's pen stopped moving. "I'm not sure I understand." "A business arrangement," Min-Jun explained. "It needs to look completely real. Venue, flowers, guests, everything perfect. But the couple getting married don't actually want to marry each other. It's about business alliances." This wasn't the strangest request Beauty had received in the wedding industry. Rich people did weird things all the time. But something about this felt different. "Mr. Park." Min-Jun. "Min-Jun," Beauty corrected. "I should mention that Elite Events has policies about." "I'll pay triple your highest package," he interrupted. "Plus a personal bonus for you. 6 figures. Beauty's heart stopped. 6 figures. That was her student loans paid off. That was sending money home to her mom. That was finally having some security. But her mama had raised her with principles. "Why me?" she asked instead of immediately saying yes. Min-Jun leaned forward. "Because when you look at me, you see a person. Not a monster. Not a story you heard. Just a man." He paused. "And because you need the money enough to consider this, but you have enough integrity to question it. That combination is rare." Beauty met his eyes. Growing up black in America, then moving to Korea where she was even more visible, had taught her to recognize when someone actually saw her. Really saw her. This man saw her. It was unsettling. And thrilling. "I need 24 hours to think about it," Beauty said. Min-Jun pulled a card from his jacket. 24 hours. Call this number." He stood, then paused at the door. "Miss Hayes, I meant what I said. You're different. That's exactly why I chose this company after I saw you working that charity gala last month." He'd been watching her. Beauty stared at the card in her hand after he left. Heavy, expensive paper. Just a phone number. No name. She should throw it away. Instead, she put it in her purse, already knowing what her answer would be. That evening, Beauty's phone rang while she was cooking dinner. Her fiancé David's name flashed on the screen. She'd met David 6 months ago at an expat meetup. He was American, worked in finance, and had seemed sweet at first. They'd started dating, and 3 months later he'd proposed. "Hey babe," Beauty answered, stirring the pot of jjigae she was making. "Can't make dinner tonight," David said. "Working late again." Beauty frowned. "David, you've worked late every single night this week. What's going on?" "Nothing's going on. This project is just intense. Look, I gotta go. Love you." He hung up before she could respond. Beauty stared at her phone. Something felt off. David had been distant lately. Their wedding planning, which she was paying for herself despite his promises, felt like something he was enduring rather than excited about. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "By the way, maybe try cutting carbs again? Weddings in 3 months. You know how photos are." The message landed like a slap. Beauty deleted it, blinking back angry tears. She pulled Min-Jun's card from her purse and stared at it. Then she made the call. The address she was given led to a restaurant in Gangnam. Not one of the trendy, flashy places. This one had an unmarked door and felt exclusive in a way that whispered money and power. The hostess recognized Min-Jun's name immediately and led Beauty through the main dining area to a private room in the back. Min-Jun stood when she entered. "Beauty, thank you for coming." The table was already set with multiple dishes. The smells made her mouth water. "I took the liberty of ordering," Min-Jun said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "Have you tried much Korean food?" "Some," Beauty admitted, sitting down. "But nothing that smells this amazing. This is galbi, kimchi jjigae, japchae, and bibimbap," he explained, pointing to each dish. "Please eat. We can talk business after." Beauty hesitated, then filled her plate. She was used to men who made comments about her eating, about her portions, about whether she really needed that second serving. But Min-Jun just watched her with what looked like satisfaction when she took her first bite and couldn't help making a small sound of appreciation. "You're not one of those women who pretends not to eat," he observed. "I stopped pretending to be something I'm not a long time ago," Beauty said, meeting his gaze. "Life's too short to starve yourself for people who won't appreciate you anyway." Wise words. Min-Jun served her more kimchi. "Your fiancé, does he appreciate you?" The question was intrusive, but Beauty found herself answering honestly. "He wants me to lose weight before the wedding, sends me diet plans, makes jokes about my size in front of his friends, like we're both in on it." She paused, surprised at herself. "I don't know why I'm telling you this. Because I asked. And because you know I won't judge you." Min-Jun's expression was unreadable. "He's a fool." Beauty's breath caught. "You don't know me. I know you're brilliant at your job. I know you work harder than everyone else in that office. I know you moved to a foreign country alone and built a life here. I know you carry yourself with dignity even when people treat you as invisible." He leaned forward slightly. "And I know you deserve better than a man who sees you as a project instead of a prize." The words hit Beauty right in the chest. She blinked rapidly, refusing to cry in front of this dangerous stranger who somehow saw her more clearly than the man she was supposed to marry. "The wedding," she said, steering to safer ground. "Tell me about it." Min-Jun accepted the redirect. "The bride is the daughter of a business associate. She's in love with someone else. Someone her father won't approve of. The groom is my cousin. He's equally uninterested. The marriage is strategic, combining territories, ending potential conflicts." "Territories," Beauty repeated. "You mean criminal territories." "I mean business interests," Min-Jun corrected, but his eyes acknowledged the truth. "You'll be well paid and protected. No one will touch you while you're working for me." "And after the wedding?" Min-Jun's jaw tightened slightly. "After the wedding, you go back to your life. With enough money to leave your fiancé if you choose. To start over however you want." Beauty took a sip of water, her mind calculating risks and rewards. "I'll do it, but I have conditions." "Name them." 1. Full creative control over the event. No one interferes with my vendor choices or design decisions. 2. I meet the bride and groom to understand what they want. 3. You're honest with me. If I'm in danger, I deserve to know. Min-Jun considered her. "Agreed. But I have one condition too." "What?" "Weekly meetings. Here at this restaurant. Just the two of us. To discuss progress." His gaze intensified. "I want to make sure you're safe. That you're managing the stress." Beauty's heart rate picked up. This felt like more than business. But she couldn't afford to think about that. "Fine. Weekly meetings." They shook hands across the table. Beauty felt the same jolt of electricity she'd felt at their first meeting. Min-Jun's thumb brushed across her knuckles before he released her hand. The touch was deliberate. Over the next 2 weeks, Beauty threw herself into planning the wedding. She managed her regular workload, avoided David's increasingly critical comments about her body, and met with Min-Jun every week. The weekly meetings became the best part of her routine. Min-Jun asked about her life, her dreams, her mother's cooking, her experience moving to Korea. He actually listened when she talked about growing up in Atlanta, about her dad leaving when she was young, about the books she loved. In return, he shared carefully measured pieces of himself. His family immigrated from North Korea when he was a child. His father built an empire through both legal and illegal means. When his father died, Min-Jun inherited everything, including enemies who wanted him dead. "Did you ever want a normal life?" Beauty asked one evening. "Normal is a myth," Min-Jun replied. "We all make choices based on what life gives us. You could have become bitter. You could have let the world's cruelty make you cruel. But you chose kindness, strength. That's remarkable." Beauty felt heat rise to her cheeks. "You make me sound like a hero. I'm just trying to survive." Survival is its own form of heroism. Min-Jun's phone buzzed. His expression hardened as he read the message. "I need to handle something. Let me have my driver take you home. I can take the subway. Please. The single word carried weight. It's late. I'd prefer knowing you got home safely. Something about the concern in his eyes made Beauty agree. The driver was a quiet man named Jin-ho. As they pulled up to Beauty's apartment building, she saw David's car parked outside. Her stomach sank. Beauty found David waiting in the hallway outside her apartment. His face was red, his eyes angry. "Where have you been?" he demanded. "Working," Beauty said truthfully. "A big client." "Why are you here?" "Working until 11 at night?" "Beauty, I called your office. Mrs. Kim said you left at 6. I had a client meeting." "David, what's going on?" "What's going on?" David's voice rose. "My fiancé is lying to me. That's what's going on." "Who is he?" Beauty's own temper flared. "It's a client meeting. That's my job. You think I'm stupid?" David stepped closer. She could smell alcohol on his breath. "You've been different lately. Dressing nicer. Doing your hair different. Wearing makeup. Who are you trying to impress? So I'm not allowed to take care of myself?" Beauty shot back. "You've been telling me to lose weight, to try harder. And now that I actually start feeling good about myself, you accuse me of cheating. Because you are. Why else would a woman like you suddenly have confidence?" The words were designed to hurt, and they did. Beauty's voice went cold. "Get out. Beauty. Get out. Now." She pulled her engagement ring off her finger and pressed it into his palm. "We're done. I'm done." David stared at the ring, shock replacing anger. "You're serious? Over one fight? Over 3 years of you making me feel like I'm not enough? Over every comment about my weight? Every time you looked embarrassed to be seen with me? Every promise you broke about our wedding? About our life together?" Beauty's voice didn't shake. "I'm worth more than settling for someone who sees me as a burden." She went inside and locked the door, listening to David's footsteps finally fade away. Then she slid down the wall and let herself cry. Not for him, but for the years she'd wasted convincing herself she didn't deserve better. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Are you okay? Jin-ho said there was a man waiting for you. MJ." Beauty stared at the message. Something warm spread through her chest. She typed back, "I'm okay now. Thank you for asking." The response came immediately. "Call if you need anything. I mean it." Beauty saved the number and fell asleep holding her phone, feeling for the first time in years that maybe she was worth more than she'd allowed herself to believe. The wedding planning consumed the next month. Beauty met the bride, Ji-won, a beautiful Korean woman in her mid-20s with sad eyes and a resigned expression. The groom, Min-Jun's cousin Tae-young, was polite but clearly indifferent. "I appreciate what you're doing," Ji-won told Beauty during a venue tour. "Making it beautiful even though it's this. Every bride deserves a beautiful wedding," Beauty said gently. "Even if the reasons aren't traditional." Ji-won's eyes filled with tears. "There's someone else. Someone I love. But my father would never approve." Beauty thought of David, of the relief she'd felt after ending that relationship. Sometimes the people we love aren't the people we're supposed to be with. "Were you ever in love?" Ji-won asked. "I thought I was," Beauty admitted. "But real love doesn't make you feel small. It doesn't ask you to change everything about yourself to be acceptable." The words echoed in her own mind during her next meeting with Min-Jun. They sat in their usual private room, but the atmosphere felt different, charged with something unspoken. "You ended your engagement," Min-Jun said without preamble. Beauty met his gaze. "How did you know?" "I pay attention." He poured her tea. "Was it because of our arrangement?" "It was because of me. Because I finally realized I deserved better than how he treated me." She paused. "But yes, these weeks working with you, being around someone who actually listens when I speak, who doesn't look at me like I'm something to be fixed, it helped me see the difference." Min-Jun's expression softened in a way she'd never seen. "He was a fool to lose you. He didn't lose me. I left him." The distinction mattered to Beauty. "Even better." Min-Jun leaned forward. "Beauty, I need to tell you something." The wedding. There's been a complication. Her pulse quickened. What kind of complication? A rival organization isn't happy about the alliance. They've made threats. Nothing concrete, but concerning. His jaw tightened. I'm increasing security at all venues. And I'm assigning a protection detail to you. To me? Why would they? Because they know you're important to me. The words hung in the air between them. Anyone can see how much I value your professional expertise, Min-Jun added quickly. But they both knew he meant something more. Beauty's heart hammered. Min-Jun, this is just a job. After the wedding, you'll go back to your life. I know. His hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching hers. But until then, you're under my protection. Non-negotiable. The protection detail was a woman named Soo-jin who followed Beauty everywhere like a well-dressed shadow. Beauty was working late at the office one evening, finalizing floral arrangements, when Soo-jin's phone buzzed. We need to leave, Soo-jin said immediately, all business. Now, what's happening? Someone's been asking questions about you. At your apartment, at your coffee shop, at the gym. Soo-jin was already moving Beauty toward the back exit. Mr. Park wants you somewhere safe until we identify who's asking. Beauty found herself in the back of a luxury car, being driven through Seoul while Soo-jin made rapid calls in Korean. They pulled up to a high-rise in Gangnam. Soo-jin guided her to a penthouse on the top floor. The door opened before they knocked. Min-Jun stood there, relief flashing across his features so quickly Beauty almost missed it. You're safe. I'm confused, Beauty countered. What's going on? Min-Jun dismissed Soo-jin with a nod and drew Beauty inside. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's skyline. Minimalist decor with traditional Korean art. Everything expensive but tasteful. Someone's been tracking your movements. Taking photos, Min-Jun said. We're trying to identify them. Photos? Beauty's stomach dropped. Why? To use as leverage against me. Min-Jun's voice was hard. They know you're working on the wedding. They may think you're more than that. But I'm not. Aren't you? Min-Jun turned to face her fully. The intensity in his gaze stole her breath. Beauty, I know this started as business. But these weeks, getting to know you, seeing your strength, your brilliance, the way you move through the world with grace despite everything trying to diminish you. He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. You've become important to me. More important than I intended. Beauty's mouth went dry. Min-Jun, we can't. I know. Your life, my life. They don't fit together. After the wedding, you'll go back to your world and I'll stay in mine. He took a step closer. But right now, tonight, I need you to stay here, where I know you're protected. Every rational thought told Beauty to refuse. But she looked at this dangerous, powerful man who made her feel seen in a way no one else ever had. And she nodded. Okay, just for tonight. Min-Jun showed Beauty to a guest room that was bigger than her entire apartment. There are clothes in the closet that should fit. Bathroom through there. If you need anything. Thank you, Beauty interrupted, for caring about my safety. Even if it's just because I'm working for you. Min-Jun's hand lifted as if to touch her face, then dropped. It's not just because you're working for me, Beauty. I think you know that. He left before she could respond. Beauty sat on the edge of the enormous bed, her heart racing. She was falling for him, for a man who lived in a world of violence and secrets, who could never offer her a normal life. But as she looked around the beautiful room, felt the echo of his concern and care, she wondered if normal was even what she wanted anymore. Around 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, Beauty wandered into the main living area. She found Min-Jun standing at the windows, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring out at the city lights. He turned when he heard her. His expression was unguarded in a way she'd never seen. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Too much on my mind. Beauty joined him at the window. Can I ask you something personal? Anything. Why did you really choose me for this job? Min-Jun was quiet for a long moment. I saw you at that charity gala. You were coordinating everything, solving problems, making everyone else's event perfect. But I also saw how they treated you. Your boss taking credit for your work. Vendors dismissing you until you proved yourself. Your fiancé barely acknowledging you when he arrived. His jaw clenched. And through it all, you were gracious, professional. You didn't let their disrespect diminish you. That strength drew me to you. So it was pity? Beauty said, hating how her voice wavered. No. Min-Jun set down his glass and turned to face her fully. It was recognition. I know what it's like to be underestimated. To have people see only what they want to see. You and I were both fighting to be seen for who we really are. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hand. I see you, Beauty Hayes. All of you. And you're extraordinary. Beauty's breath caught as his thumb brushed across her cheek. She should step back. This was her client. Criminal. Someone from a completely different world. But his touch was gentle, reverent. And when she looked into his eyes, she saw herself reflected back. Not as too much or not enough, but as exactly right. This is complicated, she whispered. Everything worth having is complicated. Min-Jun's other hand found her waist, pulling her closer. Tell me to stop. Beauty knew she should. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed him. The kiss started gentle, tentative, both of them testing boundaries. Then Min-Jun made a sound low in his throat and deepened it. His hand threaded into her braids. His other arm wrapped around her, pulling her against him. Beauty melted into him, her hands gripping his shirt, feeling wanted in a way that had nothing to do with tolerating her and everything to do with desiring her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-Jun rested his forehead against hers. I'm not good for you, he said. My life. Let me decide what's good for me, Beauty interrupted. I've spent too long letting other people make those decisions. Min-Jun pulled her back into his arms. They stood there by the windows as Seoul sparkled below them, both understanding that everything had changed, neither willing to let go just yet. The weeks leading up to the wedding blurred together, planning details and stolen moments. Beauty and Min-Jun maintained professional boundaries in public. But in private, they couldn't stay apart. Late-night dinners at the restaurant became discussions about everything. Her love of Toni Morrison novels. His complicated relationship with his late father. Her dreams of opening her own business. His hope that maybe someday he could leave this life behind. But reality crashed back in 3 days before the wedding. Beauty was at the office when Mrs. Kim called her into a meeting. The expression on her boss's face sent warning bells ringing. Beauty, we need to talk about your client, Mrs. Kim said, her voice tight. Mr. Park? What about him? Mrs. Kim slid a folder across the desk. Inside were newspaper articles, surveillance photos, reports about organized crime in Seoul's underworld. And there, in multiple images, was Min-Jun Park. Do you know who he really is? Mrs. Kim asked. Beauty's blood ran cold. He's a businessman. He's a criminal. The head of one of Seoul's most dangerous organizations. Mrs. Kim's eyes were hard. And you've been meeting with him alone multiple times a week. Beauty, what were you thinking? I was thinking about doing my job, Beauty said. But her voice lacked conviction. Your job doesn't include becoming personally involved with clients, especially not clients like this. Mrs. Kim pulled the folder back. I'm taking over the Park wedding. You're off the account effective immediately. You can't do that. I can and I am. Mrs. Kim's expression almost looked sympathetic. And Beauty, whatever you think is happening between you and Min-Jun Park, it's not real. Men like that don't end up with women like us. They use us and move on. The words hit like physical blows. Beauty left the office in a daze, her phone already ringing. Min-Jun's name flashed on the screen. They pulled you from the wedding, he said without greeting. I just heard. How did you... Beauty stopped herself. Of course he knew. He always knew. Mrs. Kim says you're dangerous. That I'm just a distraction. I am dangerous, Min-Jun said quietly. She's right about that. But you're not a distraction, Beauty. You're... He paused. We need to talk. In person. Can you come to the restaurant? Beauty should say no. Should walk away from this whole complicated mess. But she found herself agreeing. 20 minutes later, she was in Jinho's car, being driven to what had become her refuge. Min-Jun was waiting in the private dining room, but his usual composure was fractured. They're not wrong to pull you from the wedding, he said immediately. I should have let them do it weeks ago. What are you saying? I'm saying that being near me puts you in danger. Real danger. Those photos they took of you? They were from a rival organization. They wanted to know if you mattered to me. Min-Jun's hands clenched into fists. And you do. More than anything. Which makes you a target. Beauty's heart pounded. So what? We just stop? Pretend these weeks meant nothing? We stop before you get hurt. Before someone uses you to get to me. Min-Jun's voice was rough. I care about you too much to let that happen. That's not your choice to make. Beauty stood, anger flooding through her. I'm not some fragile thing that needs protecting. I know about danger. I know about risk. And I'm telling you that you're worth it. I'm not worth your life. My life. Beauty's voice broke. Going back to my tiny apartment? Working for a boss who treats me like I'm invisible? Settling for less than I deserve because that's what the world expects. She stepped closer to him. You make me feel alive, Min-Jun. You make me feel seen. And you're telling me to give that up out of fear. Min-Jun crossed the room in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders. I'm telling you to give it up because I love you. And love means keeping you safe. Even if it means I lose you. The confession hung in the air between them. Beauty felt tears slide down her cheeks. You love me. From the moment I saw you managing chaos with grace at that gala. From every conversation where you challenged me to be better. From the way you kiss me like I'm worth saving. Min-Jun's own eyes were bright. But my love isn't enough to change what I am. What my life is. Then change it, Beauty said desperately. Leave this life. Start over. We could. It's not that simple. There are obligations. Debts. People depending on me. I can't just walk away. Min-Jun released her, stepping back. After the wedding, you're going to go back to your life. You're going to start that business you dream about. And you're going to forget about the Korean mobster who was stupid enough to fall in love with you. I could never forget you, Beauty whispered. You'll try. Because I'm asking you to. Min-Jun pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is your payment. Plus extra. Enough to start over. To build the life you deserve. Beauty stared at the envelope like it was poison. You're paying me off. That's what this is. I'm making sure you're taken care of. I don't want your money. Beauty shoved the envelope back at him. I want you. I want us. Can't you see that? I see it. Min-Jun's voice cracked. But I also see reality. We're from different worlds. I can't give you the safe, normal life. I don't want safe and normal. I want real. I want honest. I want someone who sees me for who I am, not who they want me to be. Beauty reached for him, but he stepped away. The rejection stung worse than any words. I'm sorry, Beauty. I never should have let this start. I never should have been selfish enough to pursue you when I knew it couldn't last. Min-Jun's expression was closed off now. The vulnerable man from moments ago locked away. Jinho will take you home. Don't come to the wedding. It's better if we make a clean break. Min-Jun, please. Goodbye, Beauty. He turned and walked out, leaving her standing alone in the room that had witnessed so many of their conversations. So many moments of connection. Beauty pressed her hand to her mouth to muffle the sob that escaped. Jinho appeared in the doorway, his expression sympathetic, and guided her to the car. She cried the entire ride home. Her phone buzzed with a message. For a heartbeat, she hoped it was Min-Jun changing his mind. Instead, it was from David. I heard about the breakup with the client. We could try again if you want. I miss you. Beauty deleted the message without responding. She might have lost Min-Jun, but she hadn't lost herself. That was something. The day of the wedding arrived. Beauty tried not to think about it. Tried to focus on job applications and business plans. But at 2 o'clock, The exact time the ceremony was supposed to start, she found herself getting dressed. She put on the outfit she'd planned weeks ago, called a taxi, and headed to the wedding venue. She slipped into the back of the elegant hall just as the ceremony began. Ji-won looked beautiful but heartbroken in her wedding gown. Taeyong looked resigned. And at the front, standing as a witness, was Min-Jun. He hadn't seen her enter. The officiant began the ceremony. Beauty watched, her heart aching, as the ritual progressed toward its inevitable conclusion. Until, does anyone have any reason why these two should not be wed? I do, said a voice. A young man in a simple suit stood from the guests. His eyes were on Ji-won. I love her, and she loves me. Chaos erupted. Ji-won burst into tears. Her father shouted in Korean. Taeyong actually looked relieved. And through it all, Min-Jun's gaze found Beauty in the back of the hall. Their eyes locked. She saw everything he felt written on his face. Love, regret, longing, despair. The ceremony dissolved into confusion. Guests whispered and pointed. Ji-won ran to the young man who'd spoken, and Beauty watched them embrace. Watched her choose love over obligation. It was beautiful and heartbreaking, and everything Beauty wanted for herself. She turned to leave, unable to watch anymore. Then strong hands caught her arms. Min-Jun had somehow crossed the hall without her noticing. You came, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I shouldn't have. Beauty tried to pull away, but he held firm. I'm glad you did. Min-Jun's grip tightened slightly. Because I need you to hear this. I was wrong. Beauty's breath caught. What? These past 3 days without you have been hell. I convinced myself I was protecting you, but really I was protecting myself. From risk. From the possibility of failing you. From having to choose between my obligations and my heart. Around them the chaos continued. Ji-won was crying in her lover's arms. Her father was arguing with Taeyong's parents. Guests were pulling out their phones. But Beauty only saw Min-Jun. What are you saying? She whispered. I'm saying I choose you. Min-Jun's hands moved to cup her face. I'm saying I'll find a way to leave this life. To build something new. I'm saying. He dropped to his knees right there in the wedding hall in front of everyone. I'm saying I love you, Beauty Hayes. And if you'll have me, flawed and dangerous and complicated as I am, I will spend the rest of my life proving that you were worth every risk. Tears streamed down Beauty's face. Around them, the guests who'd remained to watch the drama were now watching a new one unfold. She didn't care. You really mean it? She asked. Every word. I'm done letting fear dictate my choices. You taught me that. Min-Jun stood, his hands still cradling her face. What do you say? Will you take a chance on us? Beauty kissed him instead of answering, pouring everything she felt into it. Hope, fear, love, commitment. When they broke apart, she whispered, I love you too. And yes, 1,000 times yes. The remaining guests erupted in applause, apparently delighted by this unexpected turn. Min-Jun pulled Beauty against his side as Ji-won and her young man approached, both of them glowing despite the chaos. Thank you, Ji-won said to both of them, her voice thick with emotion, for showing me that love is worth fighting for. Her father stood nearby, his expression unreadable. Then slowly he nodded. Not quite approval, but acceptance. Taeyong clapped Min-Jun on the shoulder, grinning. Guess we're both free now, cousin. Guess so, Min-Jun agreed, never taking his eyes off Beauty. As they left the venue together, Beauty realized this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead. Min-Jun leaving his organization, building a new life, navigating their different worlds. But for the first time in her life, she believed in a love story that didn't require her to be smaller or different or less than she was. She'd found someone who saw her, truly saw her, and loved what he saw. Min-Jun laced his fingers through hers as they stepped out into the Seoul sunshine. Ready for this? He asked. Beauty looked up at him, at this dangerous, complicated, beautiful man who'd chosen her, who'd knelt in front of a room full of people and declared his love. Ready, she said, and she was. The weeks following the failed wedding were both terrifying and exhilarating. Min-Jun was serious about leaving his organization. But as he'd warned, it wasn't simple. There were meetings with his lieutenants, negotiations with rival organizations, careful dismantling of power structures that had taken years to build. Through it all, Beauty stood beside him. Not in the meetings themselves, Min-Jun kept her protected from that world. But in the quiet moments after, when he'd arrive at her apartment exhausted and stressed, and she'd feed him kimchi fried rice and listen as he talked through his decisions. "You don't have to do this for me," she told him one evening as they sat on her small couch, his head in her lap while she ran her fingers through his hair. "I'm not doing it just for you," Min-Jun replied, his eyes closed. "I'm doing it for us, for the future I want to build, for the man I want to become." He opened his eyes, looking up at her. "But yes, you're the reason I finally found the courage to try." "What will you do after?" Beauty asked. "When you're out." Min-Jun's lips curved into a small smile. "I've been thinking about restaurants. Legitimate ones. I have capital to invest. Knowledge of the industry. Could work." "It will work," Beauty said with conviction. "Because you're brilliant and strategic, and those skills work anywhere." He sat up, pulling her into his lap. "How did I get so lucky to find you?" "I ask myself the same thing," Beauty admitted, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Though some people might argue that falling in love with a mobster who's trying to go straight isn't exactly lucky. Those people would be wrong." Min-Jun kissed her softly. "You saved me, Beauty, from a life where I'd forgotten what it felt like to want something beyond power and survival." Their kisses deepened, hands exploring, breath mingling. They'd been taking things slow, building trust and emotional intimacy, but tonight felt different. "Stay with me," Beauty whispered against his lips. "Not just tonight. Stay with me." Min-Jun pulled back enough to search her eyes. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Beauty stood, taking his hand and leading him to her bedroom. "I love you. I want you. And I'm done waiting for the perfect moment. This is our moment." What happened next was tender and passionate and perfect. Two people learning each other's bodies, discovering what brought pleasure, laughing when things were awkward, connecting on a level that went beyond physical. Min-Jun touched her like she was precious, kissed every inch of her skin like he was memorizing it, whispered words in Korean she didn't understand but felt in her soul. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied and utterly content. Min-Jun traced patterns on her shoulder. "I met with the heads of the other organizations today." Beauty tensed slightly. "And we came to an agreement. I'm officially out in 2 weeks. Clean break. No retaliation. No debts." Relief flooded through Beauty so strongly she felt tears prick her eyes. 2 weeks? Really? Really? Min-Jun shifted so he could see her face. "And I want you with me when I tell my family. I want them to understand that you're my future, that I'm building a new life and you're the center of it. Your family might not be thrilled about you dating a black American woman who used to plan your fake wedding," Beauty pointed out. "My family will learn to love you the way I do," Min-Jun said firmly. "And if they don't, that's their loss. You're not negotiable, Beauty. Not now. Not ever." The meeting with Min-Jun's family the following week was tense but not hostile. His mother, an elegant woman in her 60s, studied Beauty with sharp eyes before finally nodding. "You make him smile," she said in accented English. "He hasn't smiled like that since before his father died." "I try," Beauty said, holding the woman's gaze. "He makes me happy too." "Good. Then you'll both be happy together." Min-Jun's mother switched to Korean, speaking rapidly to her son. Beauty caught the word for love and saw Min-Jun's expression soften. "She says she's glad I found someone who challenges me," he translated, "and that she hopes our children have your strength and my stubbornness." Beauty nearly choked. "Children? We've been together less than 3 months." "Korean mothers are optimistic," Min-Jun said with a grin, but his eyes held a question. "Though someday if you wanted that, children, marriage? The whole traditional path." "Yes," Beauty heard herself say. The answer came quickly, confidently. "Someday, when we're both ready." When you've built your new life and I've built my business. Speaking of your business, Min-Jun pulled a folder from his bag. I have investors interested in your event planning company. Legitimate investors. People who've seen your work and want to help you launch. Beauty stared at the documents, tears blurring her vision. You did this for me? I did this for us. Because your dreams matter as much as mine. Because I want to be your partner, not your protector or savior. Min-Jun took her hand. Partners build together. She kissed him right there in front of his family, not caring about propriety or tradition. This was her future. This complicated, beautiful man who saw her for exactly who she was and loved her. Not despite her differences, but because of them. 2 weeks later, on the day Min-Jun officially left his organization, they stood together on the rooftop of his penthouse, watching the sun set over Seoul. Are you scared? Beauty asked, leaning against him. Terrified, Min-Jun admitted, but also excited. For the first time in years, I get to choose my own path. Build something that's mine, not my father's legacy. Ours, Beauty corrected. Build something that's ours. Min-Jun turned her to face him, his hands framing her face. Beauty Hayes, you walked into my life when I'd forgotten what hope felt like. You showed me that there's more to existence than power and fear. You made me want to be better. He dropped to one knee and Beauty's heart stopped. I know it's fast. I know we said someday. But I've learned that life is too short to wait for perfect timing. Min-Jun pulled out a small box. Will you marry me? Will you build this new life with me? Will you be my partner in everything? Beauty looked down at this man who'd knelt in a wedding hall full of people to declare his love, who was leaving everything he'd known for a chance at something real. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, yes, yes. As Min-Jun slid the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Beauty realized something profound. She'd come to Seoul looking for a fresh start. She'd taken a job planning a fake wedding. She'd fallen in love with the most unexpected person. And somehow, through all the chaos and complications, she'd found exactly what she needed. Not a man to save her, but a partner to build with. Someone who saw her completely and loved her wholly. As they stood on that rooftop, the city sparkling below them, Beauty smiled. This was just the beginning of their story, and she couldn't wait to see what came next. If you loved Beauty and Min-Jun's story, smash that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they're worth fighting for. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next mind-blowing romance story. What time is it where you're watching from? Drop it in the comments below. See you in the next one.